Have you ever felt like you were being guided, even protected by something greater, long before you even knew what it was? In today's episode, I sit down with Will Brown, a gifted deep trance channeler whose life has been anything but ordinary. From conversations with an unseen presence as a boy, to 28 years of military service, to a moment at a massage table that reawakened a dormant spiritual gift. Will's path to purpose has been paved with surrender, divine timing, and the quiet voice of a higher self. We talk about the mysterious pause his body enters during sessions, his partnership with his wife Allison, and the sacred power of trusting what you can't yet prove. If you've ever wondered what it really means to be guided, this one is for you. Hi, my friend. Welcome to the Orykl podcast. Today, I am joined by one of Orykl's vetted channelers, Will Brown. He's been with us for a while, and we're going to hear his story and learn a bit more about what he does. So, Will, thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. It was rather unexpected, the invite, but, thank you for the invite, and I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you. I literally invited him yesterday because I had a gap. So thanks, Will. Will, let me start with this question. What is your mission in life right now?
Oh my goodness. Well, that's a weighty question. I would say really it's from the client perspective, looking at the client, it really is getting them in touch with their higher self so they can move forward with their mission. The work that I do as far as, the deep trance channel work that I do, connecting with someone's higher self, is really to give them greater insight in what their mission is so they can comfortably move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So briefly explain to us what exactly happens in one of your spiritual sessions.
Yeah. So it's a unique kind of session because when I enter into my trance state, I don't have recognition of what's going on. So my wife actually facilitates all of the questioning. So once I'm in, all of the questions are asked through Allison to me, well, to their higher self, to the client's higher self. And for that hour session, my consciousness isn't present. I don't remember a thing. I don't know anything. So it's unique in that way. But I do feel the profound energies flowing through. So my input at the end is really just, what I sensed, the energies that I sensed. And when the energy shifts, or maybe a new guide comes in, or somebody that wants to help on their path, they come in. I can tell when that takes place, and it usually correlates to where Allison may ask a question about a guide or something like that. So, my sessions are, I sit with the client's name for a bit, and then and use that as an invocation to start the session. And once I'm in, that hour session for me feels like 2 minutes. So
Amazing. That feels like a nice job to have. Just sit back, relax, and what happened?
Yeah, and interestingly, in one of the early channeling sessions, mainly just for my own growth in this, Allison asked the question, well, what happens to William's body when he's, in this trance state? And they said, well, we basically put him into a state of stasis, or on pause. We pause his physical body. So Allison asked the follow-up question, well, does that mean he's getting younger by doing the channeling sessions? And they didn't really say yes or no, but that's what she took out of it, is that for each hour that I'm in, I don't age that hour. So, hey, what a benefit, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I have had a channeling session with you and the collective, and I can absolutely confirm you're really out of it. You're kind of sitting at the back a little bit. Allison's in front. She's communicating with me. She's asking you the questions, and yeah, you're not there. They're completely speaking through you, and that's what we call trance channeling, right? Deep trance channeling. So yeah, it's super interesting. So okay, well, I'd love to know your story, your personal story of how you got to where you are today, and where you came from. So maybe let's start with your childhood. Can you tell us a bit about your childhood, and particularly what beliefs did you grow up with in terms of who you were and what life was as a child?
Yeah. So, well, I guess the bigger framework, I I didn't grow up in a Christian household. I didn't, my parents, I was raised by my mother and my grandmother. My father was not in the picture from early on. And, their religious status would be a Roman Catholic, but they weren't practicing Roman Catholics. So all I really knew church was a place to go for weddings, funerals, baptisms, that kind of thing. I don't remember a time ever going to a church growing up. So I didn't really have that as a framework. But I know that in my early teens, maybe even a little bit before my teen years and all the way through my teen years into early adulthood, I would find time in the evening before I'd fall asleep that I would just have this conversation with somebody. I had no idea who it was. I just knew there was a greater presence around me, and I would just have this conversation about my struggles in life. But I never knew who it was. But I always did feel a sense that there was something bigger watching out over me, really kind of just keeping me out of trouble. And frankly, I mean, I grew up on the shores of Lake Michigan, about an hour north of Milwaukee, and it was a little industrial town. And I will say that most of the friends that I've grown up with, now looking there that way, they've either passed on or they're in jail, or, and that was kind of the struggle of life. And it was in those moments where I knew that, yes, the little spidey senses kick in and say, this probably isn't going to turn out well. Well, when I felt that, I would just, hey, I got to go, and they would end up getting in trouble. So I was always guided in a way that, there was always something there for me. So yeah, that's kind of my childhood in a nutshell. So
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so interesting because I hear this very often with spiritual practitioners that as children, they had that sense that there was something greater. Of course, as a child, you don't really name that. You don't know what it is, but you might be speaking to. Were you speaking physically with somebody, or was it just in your head that?
No, there were times that I would actually just lay in bed, especially if I had a really rough day with, as a teen, you have your troubles with your mom and your parents or whatever. And yeah, I would lay in bed and I would just vocalize, just kind of under my breath, just talk. Hey, I don't know what's going on. I need some, that kind of thing, just the struggle. And I'd fall asleep to that. And I'd always feel calm and rested in the morning. I felt like something, just, hey, we'll get you through. Just bear with us. We'll get you through, that kind of thing. It's so, I can't put a lot of words towards it, but that's really what it was like.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. And then as a teenager, did you feel sort of grounded and safe, or were you more kind of misunderstood and different?
Oh, yeah.
And like, how did your teenage years, shape you?
Yeah, but that'd be an interesting question to ask a lot of my classmates that I grew up with, right? I've never been to a high school reunion, so I don't know what they thought of me then and what they think of me now. But yeah, I did stick out a bit. I did, as my mother would say, you marched to your own drum. Yes, I did. I wore clothes differently. I didn't, I was the fringe kid, but yet I had friends across all of the different groups in high school. So, whether it was the jocks or the preps or the whatever you want to call them, I was kind of intertwined with all of them, but yet I didn't really fit into any one of them. I knew all of them, but I was very comfortable in my own skin to a point. But I was very shy, very reclusive, an only child growing up. So I had to find my own path. But there was a distinct moment in high school where I was walking from one class to another, and I always would look down to the floor at my feet as I'm walking, just because I didn't want anybody looking at me. And I heard a voice, and we were just talking about this maybe a week or so ago. I heard a voice in my head say, look up. Why are you looking at your feet? Look up, look people in the eye. So I just looked up and I started looking ahead. And it was a very transformative moment of just my own recognition of myself, I guess you could say, kind of stepping into myself. And I didn't really care I shouldn't say that. I cared, but I didn't care enough to change who I was, what people thought of me. I kept being who I was. And even, there is a pivotal moment in there that ties to where I am, what I'm doing now, but we'll get to that. But even into the military, that's another portion of my life. I was who I was. Nothing was going to change who I was. I don't change the core value of who I am just because of my environment.
Yeah. And talking about the military, I know you entered the military, you worked there for a very long time. You also met your wife pretty early on, if
Yeah.
I'm deciphering this well. So, okay, so how did that happen from teenager to military to wife? What was the
Wow.
story there?
So graduate high school, immediately go into so I joined the Coast Guard, the U.S. Coast Guard, and I served almost 28 years with the Coast Guard. So yeah, quite a long time. Well, my very first duty station was a ship. I went from high school to boot camp to the ship to underway. So it was like a big blur, but that underway was 9.5 months underway. So I was on an icebreaker. So I got to see all of
What
the
does that
world.
mean, underway? You were gone
Yeah, you're
on the
gone
sea?
from the home port, which is Wilmington, North Carolina at the time, and
Yeah.
we didn't return there for 9.5 months. So we went
Oh,
from there to Newfoundland to Greenland to the North Pole, literally the North Pole. I've been 500 miles south of the North Pole,
cool.
the physical North Pole. So
Cool.
Iceland, Norway, England, so all these different countries, and Edinburgh and or Scotland. And so we do all that. I get back, and within, I would say, 4 days of returning home, I just happened to go to this party with older women, and I saw Allison, and something clicked. I knew that's the woman I need to be with for the rest of my life. Now, she's 4 years older than I am. And
Wow.
it wasn't easy, the first couple of years, but and actually this year we're celebrating our 35th year. So it's amazing. So
Wow.
it's been really an amazing journey. And one final note, and then I'll let you jump in. It was early on in that relationship where, maybe even within the first year, she asked me, she said, well, where do you see us in the future? She kind of wanted to see where was my head with all this? And I said, we're going to be working together. And she's like, absolutely not. You're too much of a perfectionist. I'm not working with you. Well, here we are. And I said, I see you writing books and me sitting at home signing those books and sticking them in the mail to whoever orders one. Well,
No
we're
way.
getting ready to publish, I think, our 5th book. So yeah,
Wow.
it's that premonition that it was a whimsical thing that I was saying, but it was true in what I was saying. But
Yeah.
little did I know, 30 years later or 20 years later, here we started that process.
Yeah. And from what I know of you and your wife, I love it because you guys seem, honestly, from my point of view, very in love, very supportive of each other, like a real team, like a romantic team and a business team, and very solid. You guys seem to really get each other, and I'm sure you go through your struggles, but it's lovely to see. I mean,
Well,
I must
thank you.
say, what
Thank
an
you.
inspiration.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has been a journey, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
It's been absolutely amazing. So,
Oh, beautiful. I love it. It's rare these days, so it's really
yeah.
nice. So, okay, so how did you get into this line of work? What happened? Was there a catalyst? Did something catastrophic happen,
Yeah.
or was it a slow, gradual thing? Yeah.
So yeah, and I alluded to it earlier, and that's kind of where I'll start, and then I'll jump forward. So in high school, my psychology teacher, we did guided meditations. And in those
Hmm.
guided meditations, I actually had moments of out of body experiences where I found myself outside the classroom and looking inward, that kind of thing. So, but of course, I'm not going to say anything to anybody. I had no idea what was going on, and who knows where I'd be if I would have said something. So, and I didn't have a supportive family that would have understood that anyway. So now jump forward. So, um, around 2015, by that point, I'm already retired out of the military. And I'm already enrolled in the Veterans Administration as far as a disabled veteran. And they have me on all kinds of medications for back pain and back injuries and all these different things. Well, Allison decides she wants to investigate this thing called Reiki. And to kind of framework that, there was a moment in time that, yes, I did go to church. I was baptized as an adult, but in that church, Allison received a call from God or source that she needed to start a hands-on healing team. And so she approached the pastor, and they put together a program where she could lead this hands-on healing team. Well, when we moved here, that was in Texas. When we moved here in South Carolina, we stepped away from the church, but then she wanted to investigate this thing called Reiki because it's similar to hands-on healing, is at least what she thought. And so she was attuned to level 1 and needed somebody to practice on. Well, she started practicing on me. I'm her guinea pig, right?
Yeah.
I don't mind trying new things and experimenting. And as she laid hands on me and started working on me, I could feel, I call it kind of a reawakening. I could feel that energy that I kind of felt while as a teenager talking to whoever I was talking to. Those moments where I had those out of body experiences, that kind of energy. I couldn't really explain it, but I knew something was going on. So the more she worked on me, the more I wanted to get trained. So I got trained in level 1, level 2. She was already level 2 by that point. And additionally, I started working with my VA primary care physician to wean me off of all the medications, 6 or 7 of them that I was on. And that was by the end of 2016, I was off all those medications, and I've been off of medications ever since. And I credit all that to the energy of Reiki and reorganizing how I understand my energy field and how I don't allow any of my pain or discomfort to be the controlling factor. I control it. So there's a relationship building there. So that's kind of that's the catalyst to where it began, and it really grew. I'll say exponentially from 2016 to 2018. That's the next big jump. I practiced with Reiki. I practiced with mediumship. I practiced with psychic work. I've kind of combined my psychic work and mediumship work together. Kind of created my own little thing that I used to do, which was good. It just didn't feel like it was what I was really called to do. And I'll also put in there, there was a significant moment because both myself and my wife are veterans, that we were called to take that Reiki practice into the Veterans Administration here in the US. And we were very successful from 2016 all the way to 2020 when COVID hit. We had, for South Carolina at least, we had 20 something volunteers that were going and providing Reiki to veterans every week, maybe twice, 3 times a week. So into all the different clinics. So it was quite profound. And there's, I mean, I could go on a whole nother tangent with that and how profound it was for the VA. And we've gone on to train a lot of their nursing staff. And now they have a program internally now that they can train other nursing staff in Reiki. So it's a perpetuating thing. So it's a wonderful thing that took place.
Wonderful, amazing, well done. Thank you. That's great. It's needed. This is also why I'm doing Orykl, is to share more of this, right? To train more people, to get more people to use these healing techniques. It's wonderful getting off of medication, holistically, I mean, feeling good and knowing that you have the power to heal yourself, right? I think that's also very important, understanding that. Okay, but today you are a channeler, you're a deep trance channeler. And you channel the collective, you call them a collective. So explain to us a bit more about who the collective is and how you got to channel them. I mean, how did that happen?
So, wow. So the collective, simply put, the collective is a combination of Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, the source, and Enoch. And we'll get to Enoch here in a minute. So why he fits in there. So I alluded to 2018. 2018 was, like I said, the next demark in time, or the next jump in what I do. So it was around the early spring of 2008. A good friend of ours was receiving her certification in Dolores Cannon's QHHT practice, a quantum healing hypnosis technique. And she posted, and all she posted was the initials, QHHT. And she said, I'm getting certified in this, and I need 25 volunteers to practice on. I'm like, oh, sure, I'll try that. I had no idea what it was. I had absolutely zero idea what QHHT was. So we align our session and get it scheduled, and I submit all my questions to her and do all that to the practitioner. Well, she comes over to the house. I get on my massage table and she says, okay, I'm going to walk you through like a guided meditation and do that whole mess. If for those that are familiar with QHHT or even BQH, Beyond Quantum Healing, I was like, ooh, this is very familiar. This as far as a guided meditation. So I could just relax and I could feel myself just slide over that edge. And so now to some of my questions. One of the primary questions is, who is it that's been watching over me? Who is it that I've been working with? Who is it that, I've been talking to as a child and all of this? Well, she could tell that I was in deep enough. And it was at the point at which she could ask that question. And she goes to ask the question, and this profound, deep, I'll even say guttural no came out, like an octave that I don't even think I could achieve right at the moment. So she's like, okay, well, let's, so she moved on and kept asking questions. And she could sense that I was going deeper and deeper. And finally, at a point, she asked that question again. Who is it that William is connected to, that's been with him all of his life, that he knows that is watching over him? And again, this deep guttural voice comes out and goes, Enoch. And she had no idea what to do at that point. Cause I'm like her third client, maybe fourth. She has no idea how deep I am, I guess. So she just goes back to the questions and starts asking them the questions that I had on my list, which is fine. We ended the session, but she came out, and we both came out of the room and met up with Allison. And Allison said that we both looked like we just saw ghosts. We were white. We were just energy drained. I was sweating profusely. And all she could say is, can I come back next week and try this again? And I'm like, sure. So we did that for maybe 4 or 5 weeks, where she would just come, and I call it mining for information. And it was I just surrendered. At that point, I was surrendering to that process. And I just let myself go in as deep as I could. And we talked to everyone that she could possibly think of. And so it was fascinating. And so that was the start of where I am today. So yeah, that's really kind of kicks off that process of my deep trance channeling. And then from there, there's.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. I love it. And it's interesting that you say that you just, what's the word that you used?
Surrender.
Just wanted to surrender.
Yeah.
That's the kind of the key for a lot of these things, right? Just letting go, surrendering, stop trying, and wonderful. Okay, so that's amazing. And from there to actually doing this professionally, and was there a moment in time where you thought, okay, this is for me, or did you know from the beginning? How did that unfold? And because I ask this as well because I'm sure that somebody out there listening has had similar experiences. Maybe they have a knack for it. They are the kind of people that can surrender into this and would perhaps like to trust that and follow that. But there is, this fear behind it. There's no trust. The trust thing is the big thing. Tell us how that unfolded.
The trust is the biggest thing. So in that, Allison was trained in the next evolution of QHHT, which is beyond quantum healing, or BQH. And, she wanted to practice. So of course she tries it with me, and she realizes, oh, wow, this works, right? She didn't think it was going to work with me because I know her voice and I'm not going to be able to get in, whatever. But, it was nearing the end of 2018 that we were coming, Allison and I went to the room, and I laid down because we're going to do a personal session. She had a bunch of questions to ask. And right even before the session even began, my guides told me to sit in a chair. They literally said in my head 3 times, chair, chair, chair. I ignored it the first time. I laid my head back down. I kind of lifted up like, what? And I heard it again. And I got off the table. I sat in a chair, and they said, just breathe. I told Allison, don't start yet. You'll know when it's ready. And I sat for about 4, Allison says 4 to 5 minutes. It didn't feel like that, but I was doing some very deep breathing, deep rhythmic breathing. And I entered in. So they went from having me be induced through the process to inducing myself through breath work. So at that point, it was like, okay, well, maybe we can work with others and see how it works with others. Now, in that time, before even being induced on my own or through my own induction, we were going around to a couple different places just to see what kind of interest there was. A love offering kind of thing, just to see what. So We would go to Unity Church. We went to a salt cave that way here in Charleston. But at that time, I was still on a massage table. So it was a little kind of weird, right? It was kind of, I call it
Mm,
my sideshow years, right? It was like I'm laying on a table and people are watching me. But then sitting in a chair, that's a little easier to accept. And so we thought, well, let's just see what people will, what people will pay. And it is a kind of an experiment to kind of see what's a
yeah.
comfortable price. Because I'm new, you don't want to. So for those that are, this is kind of a, for those that are new, that are wanting to jump into this and start getting paid, don't, play with it. That's the best advice I can have. Play with it and allow yourself to do some free sessions. Allow yourself to do some love offering sessions. Allow yourself time to get comfortable.
Yeah.
And I will say, even that time of just for love offerings or whatever, you're still going to have those moments that you're like, is this truly real? Am I doing it's or am I just faking all this? Right. And I can say, being as honest and open, as transparent as I can say, up until probably mid 2019, I would get ready for a session. Now, these are paying clients, mind you. I would come up here 15 minutes before the session and I'd set the room and I'd do all my things, even for your session. There would be moments as I'm walking up here that my human head is going, what are you doing? This doesn't make sense. So I would get in here and set my attention, my little rituals, and all the way to the point at which I take that breath, that human mind, that monkey brain is still going. All of a sudden it just turns off. Well, there was a moment around that mid 2019 that I just finally said, this is who I am. This is who I am. And I have to trust that this is who I am. So now I have a specific mantra that I use to invoke every session before a client even gets online or gets in front of me. I trust and understand that I am an open and clear channel. I trust and understand that this is who I am. And I trust in this process. And I use those three phrases every single time before I even start a session. Ooh, and I can feel it. And it anchors me. It anchors me into the session because it takes the human mind out of it and allows me then to enter into the process, because it is a process.
Yeah.
But once the
Yeah.
client sits in front of me and I connect to the client's energy and I close my eyes, I take my breath, I just surrender to it, and then I'm in. So, yep.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that. It's a lovely advice from somebody who's been there, who's done it.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, well, we're gonna wrap up soon, but is there perhaps something that is generally misunderstood by your clients or even your peers and your friends about what you do that is not so? Is there something that people expect sometimes that they don't get, or vice versa, that they don't expect something and
I
they
will
get something else?
honestly say that I think that's mitigated. And I say that by meaning this. No, I haven't had any clients of all the, I can't even put a number on it now. Of all the clients, we've never had anybody push back and say, oh, that wasn't what I expected, or that isn't. And I think the reason for that is that before, we don't have a system where you click a date on a calendar, you prepay, and then you jump into a session. Allison is in direct communication with you the whole time, so you can get all of those questions answered ahead of time, all of the organizational questions answered, all of the, oh, well, I'm not sure of this, I'm not sure of that. And Allison is very intuitive of guiding you in the process of how to, even think about your questions. Because frankly, we liken it to this. If you had the opportunity to step through a door and source, God, creator, whoever it might be, or whatever archangel or whoever it is that you want to talk to is standing on the other side of that door, you might have 1,000 questions, deep, deep questions in your head before you get to that door. As soon as you open that door, you're going to go, oh, I don't know what to ask. How about, so Allison helps you kind of organize all of those questions so that you could get to the deep core answer. And even if some of them aren't the deepest questions, Allison also understands that, and that's why she's such an integral part of this. She knows when the thread needs to be pulled and pulls that thread and digs into that question. So she won't let an answer just be just a benign answer. It's going to be digging into your higher self so that you can truly get an answer.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully that answered the question. I don't know. There's a lot in there that's kind of spooling off.
No, absolutely. And I have to agree with that because I remember in my session, which was quite a while ago, but I do remember her adding on to my question, which was really cool because it was exactly like you said, it just kind of went a little deeper. Like what's behind that? There's always well, not always, but there's often a question behind the question, right? Which is the real question. And sometimes we don't see it, and she's used to it and you're used to it. So obviously she's a very, very good mediator and assistant to make the most out of the session.
Yeah. So what I always jokingly say is, if Allison were a criminal investigator, I would not want to be in front of her because I would just say, all right, you're right. I'm guilty. It's like, because she knows the right questions to ask. And it's not the topical questions. It's the deep burning questions. It's the stuff that you didn't even think that you were going to be asking. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe just to wrap it up, can I ask you this question? If you could click your fingers and have the entire world know something about themselves or about life as an absolute truth, what would you like them to know?
Yeah, I think right now, especially with the way everything is in the world, however you want to look at that, I mean, there's some multiple facets to see the world right now, is trusting and knowing that you are exactly where you need to be right now. You have created this contract for your life, all of it, every aspect of it. And you've placed yourself here on this planet right now during this time for a reason. That reason might not be clear to you right now, but you're here for a purpose. You're here for a reason. So that's why I say you're here exactly right where you're supposed to be right now. Yeah. So there's so much that's going on and so much change and within consciousness that everybody that's chosen to come here now, we're all here to be warriors. We're all here to be purposeful. We're all here to change ourselves primarily, but change the world.
Oh, I love that. I feel that way myself. It's a beautiful reminder that we are exactly where we're meant to be. And I agree with you. It's a very exciting time to be alive. It's especially for any light workers, for any people that are interested in the human evolution, in their own growth. It's a wonderful time to be alive. It's crazy, but that's part of the plan. If it's not crazy, if it's not jarring, you don't move forward. So very exciting. Any last words, Will, before we say goodbye? It's been so wonderful to get to know you a little better. Yeah, anything you'd like to leave us with?
No, I would just say that, it's finding that inner guidance, however, by whatever means, whether you have, an innate ability to do that, or you have to reach out to a practitioner or something just to jumpstart it. Don't look at it as, we always look at our business, I won't say our business model, but I guess you could look at it as a business model, is that, yes, repeat clients are great, but we want to kick you in the pants to get you out the door so you can start doing the things that you're meant to be doing, right? So it's to take whatever comes through in that session and use it as the kind of the roadmap to start moving forward. So that's, and I say that for maybe other practitioners as well, is take that advice that you're getting and truly use it. So many people, that was a great session, and they just put it on the shelf. No, listen to your sessions over again. Listen to them and take notes, listen to them while you sleep, because it is what you are here to listen to. You're listening to yourself. Maybe it might not be your voice, but it's listening to yourself. Yourself is guiding you in this. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And well, let me tell you, I remember our session as being absolutely wonderful. I have it recorded as well. I've got many sessions recorded, but it was wonderful. And it really was wonderful to work with you and Allison. And thank you so much for sharing more of your story and for doing the work that you do and that you certainly came here to do. It certainly is your purpose and you're following it. And that's beautiful. So
Awesome.
thanks so much, Will.
Thank you.